Have you ever stared at your bank statement at the end of what felt like a perfectly normal month and experienced a moment of genuine financial vertigo, wondering precisely where all your hard-earned money evaporated? You didn't make any outlandish impulse buys. There were no emergency major purchases, just the standard stream of daily life, groceries, a few necessary meals out, perhaps replacing a phone that was finally choking on its last software update. We tell ourselves these are normal expenses. And yet, somehow, when we check the balance, we're left with the unsettling feeling that our savings account should be exponentially larger than it is. The hard truth, and this is the financial blind spot most people fail to see until they are already in the hole, is simple. The value proposition for vast swaths of consumer goods and services has completely collapsed. A tremendous amount of what we buy today just isn't worth the sticker price anymore. Not even close. Prices have ascended into the realm of the ridiculous on items that were historically perfectly reasonable expenditures, and we, the consumers, are tacitly accepting this new reality simply because everyone else seems to be doing it. My name is King, and my goal is to help people not just understand money, but to understand how to actually keep more of it, rather than watching it vanish into a black hole of overpriced garbage and status traps. If you want to put an end to that perpetually broke feeling and fundamentally restructure where your money is flowing, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a like if you find this breakdown helpful. Let's begin with an uncomfortable truth, one that is guaranteed to put some people on the defensive, but which must be acknowledged. Fast food is not cheap anymore. It just isn't. We all remember when fast food was the default solution for speed and affordability. That was the central premise. You could reliably acquire a burger, fries, and a drink for less than $5 and be on your way. Those days are utterly extinct. Now you're routinely staring down tabs of $12, $15, and sometimes even $20 for a single meal at places like McDonald's or Burger King. $20 for fast food. Let that sink in. That price point used to secure a casual meal in a seated restaurant, complete with actual ceramic plates and a server bringing you water. Now, you're standing at a sticky counter or sitting in your car, eating out of a lukewarm paper bag, paying the same cost you would have paid for a decent, medium-tier casual dining experience just a few short years ago. The value proposition has entirely vanished. You are now paying premium prices, prices adjusted for modern inflation, for food that remains the exact same quality it always was, which is to say, often barely edible. And people continue to pay it because of convenience, thereby normalizing this absurd price escalation. But the situation only compounds when you consider eating out at actual sit-down restaurants, not quick service, but places where you relax and order from a menu. This category of spending used to be something budgeted for regularly. Perhaps a dinner out once or twice a week was a non-event financially. Now, going out to eat has transformed into a high-octane luxury expense that accumulates at a genuinely shocking rate. You sit down, you order a couple of entrees, maybe an appetizer because you're hungry, and definitely drinks, alcoholic or otherwise, because that's part of the experience. Before the main courses even arrive, you are looking at a running tab of $60, $70, or $80 for two people for one single meal. And this is not at a Michelin-starred establishment. This is at a regular neighborhood restaurant, nothing particularly special. Then you factor in the tip because, of course, standard practice dictates a 20% gratuity, and suddenly that dinner has crossed the $100 barrier. $100 permanently gone. Unlike a physical item, you haven't acquired anything that holds residual value. You purchased a momentary experience, and now it's over. There is nothing inherently wrong with enjoying a meal out, but when this spending pattern occurs multiple times a week, a habit common among many who feel financially strained, you are talking about thousands of dollars every single month simply disappearing into restaurant checks. And for what? Food that, frankly, you could have prepared at home for a tenth of the cost. Would the home version be exactly as good? Perhaps not, but would it be good enough to justify saving $500 or $600 a month? Absolutely. Most individuals who are genuinely struggling to build savings, invest, or create any kind of financial buffer are eating out way too often. It's a death by a thousand cuts, an enormous yet entirely optional expense category. Then we move on to cars, specifically brand new cars. This category truly defies logic because the mathematics of depreciation are so transparent, yet the behavior persists. Purchasing a new vehicle is arguably one of the most toxic financial decisions a standard consumer can make. I am not exaggerating. The second those tires roll off the dealership lot, the car often loses 20% of its total value instantly. You haven't even arrived home and you are already underwater by thousands of dollars. The vehicle continues to depreciate rapidly, losing more value every subsequent year. Meanwhile, because most consumers finance new cars, you are making substantial monthly payments, paying interest on top of the original purchase price for an asset that is actively becoming worth less and less. It is the antithesis of an investment. It is a guaranteed money-burning machine. People engage in this behavior for the illusory status, the new car smell, the feeling of driving the latest model, the desire for others to see them in something current. That's fine if you are independently wealthy and impervious to cash flow problems, but if you are a normal person attempting to build capital, buying new cars will ensure you stay poor. A 3 or 4-year-old used car is just as reliable, performs the exact same function, and costs half the price, often less. The majority of the destructive depreciation has already occurred, someone else paid that immediate financial penalty. But people resist this idea because they have convinced themselves they deserve the new car. They work hard. They must treat themselves. Except that treating yourself to a new car is actually treating yourself to being saddled with debt and suppressed wealth for the next 5 to 7 years. Speaking of status, let's address clothing and luxury brands. I'm not suggesting that all expensive clothing is wasteful. Certain quality items are genuine investments. A high-end pair of leather boots, a meticulously constructed winter coat, these can be worth the extra expense because they last for years, often saving money in the long run. However, that is not what most people are buying. They are buying logos. They are buying brand recognition. They are purchasing the ability to signal to others that they own something from an exclusive luxury house, and they are paying utterly insane markups for this privilege. And you can purchase a plain, high-quality cotton t-shirt for $20, or you can buy the exact same essential garment, manufactured in the same country, probably in the same factory, with a minor designer logo on it for $250. The only tangible difference is the logo tax. People willingly pay the $250 because they believe it broadcasts success or superior fashion sense. The reality is that almost no one actually notices or cares about the brand of your t-shirt. They might register the logo, but it fundamentally alters nothing about their opinion of you. You are simply out an additional $230 for zero justifiable reason. This scam applies across the board. Designer denim, luxury handbags, limited edition sneakers. The functional quality differential between the high-end version and a reasonable, mid-market version is often negligible. You are paying exclusively for brand recognition, a permissible indulgence only if you have disposable income to incinerate. Yet many consumers engaging in this behavior are going into credit card debt specifically to purchase designer labels, believing it's necessary for their personal worth. It is pure manipulative marketing, convincing you that consumer goods define your identity. Vacations are another financial area that has spiraled wildly out of control. Price-wise, taking a trip used to be manageable if you were prudent. You could find reasonable flights, stay in a clean but budget-friendly hotel, enjoy inexpensive local cuisine, and have an excellent time without bankrupting yourself. That is infinitely harder now. Flight prices are astronomical. Hotels are demanding exorbitant rates. Even the budget options are far more expensive than their historical averages. And yet, people are still undertaking elaborate vacations they cannot genuinely afford. Compelled by a feeling of obligation, they are saturated with vacation photos on social media, creating intense FOMO, fear of missing out, driving them to book trips that necessitate charging thousands to credit cards. They then spend the subsequent year paying off memories compounded by crippling interest rates. To be clear, travel has inherent value, seeing new places, experiencing cultures, but that value evaporates the second it pushes you into debt or prevents you from securing your financial future through saving and investing. There is a pervasive modern attitude that you must travel while you are young. You must collect experiences at all costs. Experiences are valuable, yes, but you know what else is valuable? Not being financially distressed, not having to work until you are 75 because you spent all your discretionary income on exotic trips during your 20s and 30s. The fiscally responsible approach is often to take smaller, regional trips, exploring closer to home, and saving international travel for when it can be funded out of cash flow, not revolving credit. But people want permission to spend money they haven't earned on experiences they feel entitled to. While we're discussing insidious drains on cash flow, let's address the proliferation of streaming services, the dreaded subscription creep. Everyone now seems to have 5 or 6: Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, Paramount Plus, Apple TV, and whatever new competitor launched last week. Each one appears innocuous at $10 or $15 a month, but tally them up and you're easily paying $60, $70, or $80 monthly just to access televised entertainment. That approaches $1,000 annually for TV. Now scrutinize how much content you actually consume. You are probably relying heavily on 1 or 2 services and barely touching the others, yet you maintain the subscriptions out of inertia, the fear that you might want to watch a specific series eventually. That $1,000 is money that could be channeled into paying down high-interest debt, building a robust emergency fund, or investing in compounding assets. Instead, it's going to streaming providers you barely use. And cable is somehow still worse. People continue to pay $150 a month for antiquated cable packages offering hundreds of channels they never watch. It's entirely redundant in the streaming age, yet customers stick with it because it's what they've always done. The same insidious inertia applies to gym memberships. Consumers sign up, commit $50 or $60 a month, attend religiously for 2 weeks, and then never return. But they keep paying because canceling feels like admitting a failure of commitment. That's another $500 to $700 annually, just vanishing money that could have been saved or invested, but is instead paying for an unoccupied locker and unused treadmills. Next is the relentless cycle of buying new electronics. Every year, a new generation of phones is released, and people rush to upgrade, even when their current device functions flawlessly. New laptops, tablets, smartwatches, the old one is fine, but the new iteration has marginally improved features, therefore it must be acquired. This unnecessary upgrading is perhaps one of the dumbest, most widespread forms of financial self-sabotage. A flagship smartphone starts at $1,000, sometimes significantly more, and people are replacing them every year or every 2 years when the previous model is entirely functional. Yes, the new camera might be slightly sharper or the processor marginally faster, but does that incremental improvement translate into any meaningful enhancement of your daily life? Almost certainly not. You're still using it for social media scrolling, messaging, and taking average photos of your lunch. The old phone performed those tasks perfectly well. Tech companies have mastered the art of engineered desire. They adhere to a strict annual release cycle with minor updates, and consumers fall for the illusion of necessity every single time. If you simply kept your phone or laptop for 4 or 5 years, rather than constantly upgrading, you would save thousands of dollars, capital that could be generating returns in the market. Instead, that capital flows straight to Apple or Samsung because consumers chase the feeling of owning the newest gadget. Worse still, these devices are increasingly designed for planned obsolescence, programmed to fail or become too slow sooner, guaranteeing continuous purchasing cycles. Here is another category that has become completely detached from reality: premium household goods, branded cleaning products, expensive kitchen gadgets, and designer furniture. Consumers are spending dramatically more than necessary on basic functional items because they are convinced that the expensive version is inherently superior. Sometimes that is true for specialty tools, but often you are just paying for the label. Generic cleaning supplies often contain the exact same active ingredients as the name brand, yet cost half the price. That inexpensive spatula from the discount store performs the same function as the $40 boutique spatula. Nobody who doesn't run a professional smoothie bar needs a $400 commercial-grade blender. Yet, people buy this stuff anyway, driven by the belief that high cost equals high quality. There is an entire culture surrounding the need for the perfect, fully accessorized kitchen. People acquire highly specialized equipment for things they make once a year. Bread makers collecting dust, pasta extruders relegated to storage, elaborate knife blocks where only 2 knives are ever utilized. It is merely clutter occupying space and hemorrhaging bank accounts. And furniture. Don't get me started on furniture. People are actively asterisk financing asterisk furniture, taking on debt like it's a car or a house to purchase a couch that will inevitably be worn out, stained, and structurally compromised in 5 years. But they want the specific aesthetic piece from the high-end store, so they enter a payment plan and pay interest on a perishable seating arrangement. That is truly insane. A perfectly serviceable, comfortable couch can be found for a few $100s through online marketplaces, thrift stores, or clearance centers. But people refuse to pursue these options because they demand an environment that looks instantly perfect, coordinated, and Instagram-worthy, so they spend thousands they don't possess. This leads us to the ultimate financial drain: status spending. This is the act of buying things not because they are needed or even truly desired, but because the consumer believes it projects an image of success to others. Luxury watches, massive designer bags, expensive cars stretched beyond their means, all of it is an attempt to create an illusion of wealth. The irony is that genuinely wealthy individuals are rarely the ones engaging in this flamboyant display. They have nothing to prove. It is the people who want to look wealthy, those who haven't actually built foundational wealth, who fall hardest into this trap. They are spending money on things that rapidly depreciate solely to impress friends, neighbors, and complete strangers who couldn't care less about their financial well-being. They possess zero savings, zero investments, and no capital building for their future, but they flash the nice timepiece and the designer purse, leading everyone to believe they are thriving. It's a fraud. The truly tragic aspect is that this spending is often rooted in deep insecurity. People feel that if they acquire the right stuff, they will feel better about themselves or earn greater respect. That mechanism fundamentally fails. Respect is earned through character and action, not through the brand printed on your accessories. And financial well-being certainly doesn't come from taking on debt to buy unnecessary items. So, where does this leave us? Nearly everything costs more than it should, and most of it delivers diminishing returns. Fast food is overpriced garbage. Restaurants are budget destroyers. New cars are financial suicide. Clothes are victims of exorbitant branding markups. Vacations are often debt traps. Subscriptions are a quiet bleed. Electronics are overpriced and engineered to break quickly. Household items are needlessly expensive. And status spending is just setting your money on fire to impress no one. The solution is not complex. Stop buying things you do not need. Stop attempting to match or exceed the lifestyle of everyone else around you. Stop succumbing to the marketing machine that tells you the newest version is a requirement. Just stop. Cook at home more frequently. Retain your current car for as long as it runs reliably, 8, 10, even 12 years. Buy high-quality used items when possible. Ruthlessly cancel streaming services you barely use. Keep your current phone until it genuinely fails. Choose generic products over branded versions. Stop trying to look rich and begin the necessary work being rich, because that is the fundamental choice. You can either maintain the appearance of wealth or you can build actual wealth. For the vast majority of people, you cannot achieve both simultaneously. Every dollar funneled into impressing others or acquiring unnecessary items is a dollar that is prevented from working for your future security. Yes, perhaps this means your life looks less dazzling on social media. Perhaps you won't have the newest gadget or the most exotic vacation photos. But what you will possess is cash flow, savings, investments, and actual financial security instead of the mere facade of it. That is worth infinitely more than any consumer good on this list. I am not advocating for monastic living. Buy things that genuinely matter to you. items that measurably improve your life or deliver authentic, lasting happiness. But be brutally honest about what those items are. Most of the things people spend the most money on do not actually generate happiness, they merely generate debt. And being broke is undeniably an unhappy existence. The reality is that prices have risen across the board, and they are not likely to regress significantly. Corporations discovered they can charge more, and consumers will still pay. We feel we have no choice. But we do. We can simply refuse to buy the overpriced item. We can say no. We can keep the old phone another year. We can cook dinner tonight instead of ordering takeout. We can skip the designer brand and buy the functional, normal version. It becomes straightforward once you consciously apply reason rather than mindlessly following the consuming herd. The people who master this simple discipline early are the ones who achieve genuine financial comfort later. The ones who continue to spend money they don't have on things they don't need are the ones who will be stressed about money their entire lives, wondering why they can't get ahead despite earning a decent income. This is why. It's all these little, seemingly reasonable expenses that aggregate into thousands upon thousands of dollars every year. Money that simply disappears. Take the time to track where your money is actually going for 1 month. You will likely be stunned by the amount you are spending on things that truly do not matter. Then figure out what you can ruthlessly cut. I guarantee there is something. Usually there are many things, and that money could be doing something far more useful than paying for your 7th streaming service or your 3rd meal out this week. I'm King, and I'll see you in the next one.